Hi, welcome to StatStuff. I'm Matt Hansen. In this lesson, I'll show you how to prioritize a variety of solutions that were brainstormed to fix a root cause. We'll do this by building an impact matrix or pick chart. This lesson covers in more detail a couple steps that were addressed in a couple previous lessons on leading a brainstorming workout. It will be very helpful if you review those lessons before viewing this one. But for now, let's quickly review those basic steps for leading a brainstorming workout.
As we said before, brainstorming can be very effective when we're doing it as part of an extended meeting, like in a workout. And we could do this in just a short time frame, like 3 to 4 hours. That should at least include the team or any other critical SMEs that we want to be included as part of that exercise. So the agenda that you might have again for that workout might look something like this. It might start off with a champion or sponsor kicking it off to help set everyone onto the right target for what the problem is you're trying to solve and the necessity for the solution. And also we might get into reviewing the transfer function and validating the root cause. Again, why they're there in the first place and what's the root cause that we're trying to focus on as part of that workout. And then the third step will be to notate all the potential solutions that may fix that root cause. That's where you're going to spend the bulk of your time. And then fourth, you want to get into building an affinity diagram of those proposed solutions that you might be able to work with. And step 5 will be to build an impact matrix, or like a pick chart, that can help map out those proposed solutions. That might take some additional time there as well. And the sixth step would be to select the proposed solutions and build a plan for any necessary research that might need for each of those solutions. And the last step is to get your champion and sponsor back in for final review to make sure that they agree with the solutions that were identified and the next steps that you've planned out with your team.
Okay, now let's explore that fifth step where we'll show how to prioritize your potential solutions in an impact matrix or pick chart.
Well, this is where you want to build the impact matrix and you want to map those proposed solutions. Again, this is going to take a long portion of the workout itself. Now, the impact matrix, or also known as the pick chart, is designed to help balance each of those ideas between its potential impact or value, which is the good thing, versus the difficulty or complexity it might have to implement each of those ideas. So yes, this is going to be the time now that we're going to try to challenge the validity of each of those ideas that were proposed. So the general steps you might follow when trying to build an impact matrix might look like this. First, we're going to notate the titles from each of those group of ideas that we had built previously in the affinity diagram. For each one of those titles, we want to rank on the scale of 1 to 10, 1 being very low, or you could even do 0 if you want, being very low, 10 being the highest. And you want to rank for them the impact or value as well as the difficulty or complexity. So, as an example, for impact or value, you might want to consider at this point the level of difference that the ideas would have at fixing the root causes or the potential savings. So, what's that impact or value we're going to get by implementing this? What do we get back for it? What's the return we're going to have for it? And so we can do that in terms of dollars for the potential savings or additional revenue that we might get from it, or it might be some other types of value we can quantify or somehow qualify as far as what's going to happen if we fix that root cause. Now, for the other perspective, which is difficulty or complexity, that's where you're going to try to consider things like change management, as far as who's going to have their buy-in, what's the level of red tape we have to go through for implementation, as well as cost associated for making that change occur, or the amount of time or coordination, or like, for example, do you have to go through IT or system resources, or go through a whole lot of other political or other kinds of legal type of ramifications in order to make this type of change occur. Those are the kinds of things you want to consider for difficulty or complexity. So it's okay if these rankings are subjective in how you're comparing them. If it's available, if it's possible, you might want to use some objective type of measurements to rank each of these. So as an example, if you're going to consider savings as part of the measurement for impact versus value, then you can break down those savings across different thresholds. For example, you can say 1 or 0 is equal to like $0. There is no savings. Versus a 5 might be equal to $1 million a year. Or a 10 might be something greater than 10 million. Now, depending on the size of your organization, you might be able to add or subtract a few zeros from those dollar amounts, but the point is, you might be able, if you're able to get dollars, then you might be able to set up these kinds of thresholds as a guide for you in determining in a fair basis what ranking you might establish for each of those opportunities for the impact or value. It's that kind of thing. Or difficulty or complexity, you might be able to use the cost that's involved, and again, use thresholds for determining the objective type of cost you might associate as a ranking for each of those different ideas. Now, the third step is you want to plot each of those ideas' rankings as coordinates on a graph. Again, using that 1 to 10 scale and across the different x and y axis that's represented in the graph. So this is kind of what it looks like. You've got here the example of the pick chart or the impact matrix, where on one side of this y-axis you've got the value or the impact. Very low down here, meaning you've got very low value or low impact, all the way up to 10, meaning high. Then across the x-axis here we've got, again, low on the low end here, all the way up to high for high complexity, high difficulty. And what we want to do is we want to plot each of those things as coordinates on this graph. So let's say for the first example, the first idea that was proposed, let's say the team said, well, for difficulty complexity on a scale of 1 to 10, they decided that 1 was very low or this was a very easy thing to implement. So when we say 1 down here is a low value for difficulty or complexity, we're basically saying it's very easy to implement, but the value and impact from that is going to be like a 4. So for this example 1, when we plug it into this e-pick chart that's available on the website, you can just simply type in, instead of example 1, you can actually overwrite this and type in the actual value, and what it will plot on the chart is whatever title you implemented in here on the row within that Excel e-pick chart that's available on the website. So in here we have example 1 that's typed out with the coordinates of 1 and 4. So that's why it's plotting on here on the scale for difficulty or complexity. It goes over to the 1 point all the way up to 4 for the value and impact. So this is the coordinate that's plotted here for example 1, where that shows up. In example 2, let's say the team said the reverse. They said that the difficulty or complexity was a level 4 and the value or impact was really low, something like a 1. Well, for example 2, this is where we plot it. It goes up to 4 for the difficulty and complexity and up to 1 for the value. So it would be plotted right here with the title for that. It's that kind of thing. Again, as you walk through each of those different ideas with your team, you want to ask them, scale of 1 to 10, what's the level of difficulty or complexity for this idea? They answer 1 through 10. And you can, again, define those thresholds if that's possible, but if not, that's okay. Just let your team give some sort of quick answer. On a scale of 1 to 10, how do they determine the difficulty or complexity? And then again, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do they determine the value or impact for each of those different ideas? Let them walk through each of those ideas and propose solutions all the way through until they have some sort of value on a scale of 1 to 10 for each of these. Then again, in the e-pick chart that's provided through the website, you can just plug all those values in. Overtype the title, type in the value here, and it'll automatically plot on here. So let's get next into how we'd interpret the results in this e-pick chart.
Alright, now let's continue these steps by looking at how we define these various quadrants to form the PICK acronym.
Let's continue again looking at the impact matrix and the proposed solutions that we're trying to plot on that chart. So as we continue through our steps, we've already got at this point all the ideas plotted onto our e-pick chart. So as we go through that, we're going to use the pick chart legend as a way to figure out how we're going to interpret these. And this is really going to be those items that are in the implement quadrant that we want to focus on to make sure that those make sense. So first of all, we've got the P. The P refers to potential. These are the items that we said had low value or impact and also low difficulty or complexity. So these are things that are very potential, but they're not necessarily the highest priority. They might be easy to implement, but they might not be the highest priority for us. And the I refers to the implement quadrant. And this is where we have high value for these as well as being real easy for us to implement or low difficulty in the implementation process. So these should definitely be given the highest priority for us to implement for sure. The next one is the consider quadrant. This is where these are things that have high value, but there's also a lot of difficulty or complexity in implementing these. So they're worth considering, but not necessarily the highest priority for us. Finally, we've got the kill quadrant. This is referring to items that are very low in value or impact, and they're very high in the difficulty or complexity. These are the things that we do not want to implement. We just want to remove them from future consideration. So what we want to work through first is compiling all the items from the implement quadrant and let the team just prioritize those according to their best judgment of what order we should follow in trying to implement and prioritize those items. And then the next thing is we want to review the remaining items that were in the potential quadrant and also in the consider quadrant. Let the team work through those to see which one of those we might want to implement. So these are the items that should not automatically be included unless the team truly agrees. We should have them review these first. As a recommendation or possible rule of thumb, you might want to consider at first going through the potential items, because it's these potential items that still have very ease of trying to implement them, or very simple for us to implement them. There's not a lot of complexity for it. Even though there's low value or impact, they could be just some minor quick wins for us. So these we might consider as a higher possibility, or something faster that we want to implement. But regardless, when you're looking at the potential quadrant and the consider quadrant, whatever you do, make sure you're evaluating those and prioritizing those items after you've already evaluated and prioritized the items that showed up in the implement quadrant. So at this point, this is where you might want to build a plan for how you might do additional research that might be necessary in evaluating some of these solutions that you identified. So if there's an idea that requires more research, it may change its ranking. You might think it's difficult or complex, but it might actually be easier. Or maybe it's the reverse. You thought it was easy, but you want to validate it first to double check to make sure it's not more difficult or complex than you might have assumed. So what you might want to do in that case is identify an owner, someone who's going to take responsibility for making sure they go back and research that and see if they need to report back to the team of any change, and how, or at least a critical change of how we consider the value or impact or the difficulty or complexity of that particular item. So plan with the team how that idea is going to be handled, and if its ranking does change, is it something that at this point when we're working through it that we would consider that's off the table, and if it changes the value significantly or changes the difficulty significantly, where is that going to fit into? It's good if you can identify that up front while you've got the team together, if it's possible, but worst case it may not be possible. You might have to revisit with your team to discuss it if there is a critical change. Now, a nice, great thing that you can use for this pick chart is that it's a great communication tool. It's real simple and straightforward if you want to review, such as in the project storyboard with your sponsor or champion, or even with other groups and stakeholders for whom you're trying to acquire some sponsorship or buy-in from them as part of the change management process. This whole pick chart is a real straightforward way that quickly communicates to the audience of why you chose certain items, why some of them are in the priority that you've set for them, because you're demonstrating that they have a high value or impact, but maybe low difficulty or complexity in the implementation process. So it's really straightforward. People get it real simply. So in that way, the pick chart or impact matrix tends to be a great tool you can use for part of the communication for your project.
All right, before we close this lesson, let's discuss how we can apply some of these concepts in a practical way.
I'd like you to go back to the example that we went through when we went through the lesson on the Affinity Diagram. And that was the example where you were trying to reduce your personal expenses and you found that there was a significant root cause that showed up in the entertainment expenses. So for each of those potential solutions that you identified before and you ran through that Affinity Diagram, try to ask yourself the following. First of all, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being low and 10 being high, how much does that solution for each one of these, how much does that solution impact or affect the value for trying to reduce your entertainment expenses? Then on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult or complex is that solution to implement? Now for each of those potential solutions, plot those values into an impact matrix or pick chart, or you might use the e-pick chart that's available on our website. And then for which of the solutions, which one of those fall into the implement quadrant? That is, the one having high value as well as low difficulty. And then which of the solutions fall into the kill quadrant, the ones that have low value, low impact, but also high difficulty or complexity. Now, do the plotted solutions in the chart, do they fall into the areas that you would have expected? If they didn't, then why is it they didn't fall into where you expected? And then also, as an overall review of this exercise, how does this help in objectively evaluating these relatively subjective solutions?
Well, that wraps up this lesson. Check out StatStuff.com for many more resources that can help you achieve powerful results. I'm Matt Hansen. Thanks for watching.